I'll be showing you guys a build for the Titan, Hunter, and Warlock, and these three builds are extremely overpowered in episode Heresy. And if you were to run these builds, you will complete any activity in Destiny 2. All of the dim loadout links will be in the description. Let's first start on the Titan. I'm pretty sure everybody's seen this build. That's because this build is extremely overpowered in Heresy just because of the artifact mods and also the new aspect that came with episode Heresy. And that aspect I am talking about is this arc aspect called Storm's Keep. Basically, whenever you activate your rally barricade and you were to stand behind it, it would generate bolt charges. This is a new item or buff that whenever you get a single bolt charge, it would give you melee energy. And if you were to reach times 10 bolt charges, if you were to hit that enemy with your abilities, it would unleash that lightning strike onto that enemy that deals the equivalent to an ignition for solar. But instead of you needing to use your abilities to summon that powerful lightning strike on that enemy, all you would have to do is be behind your barricade, and you can use your weapons as well to unleash that powerful lightning strike. So this is a bolt charge build, and tying it to the seasonal artifacts, there are many ways for us to produce bolt charges, such as this one, for example, Defibrillating Blast. If we were to stun a champion, it will grant us maximum bolt charges, and that lightning strike will also heal you and jolt combatants that it damages. There is an exotic weapon that a lot of people use for this build, and it's called the Thunderlord. They changed it a little bit, which makes it even more powerful when it comes to producing bolt charges. So all they did is that whenever you release those lightning strikes with the Thunderlord, it will grant you a stack of bolt charges. So all you would have to do is hold down the trigger to unleash those powerful rounds onto enemies, and it would periodically generate lightning strikes, and those lightning strikes will give you bolt charges, which also stacks with your rally barricade, aka Storm's Keep. The main fragment you're going to want to put for this Titan build is Spark of Frequency. Whenever you're amplified, you will get more stacks of bolt charges, and that could be acquired from any source whatsoever. So instead of you getting times 1 stacks of bolt charges whenever you're behind your barricade, you're now going to be getting times 2. And in order for you to become amplified for this build, on the seasonal artifacts, you're going to want to put this one called Flash Over. Whenever you gain maximum bolt charges, you also become amplified, and also your lightning bolts deal more damage. For the exotic armor piece, you can freely choose any exotic armor piece you like, but I really wanted to increase my damage for my Thunder Crash, so I decided to put the Cuirass of the Falling Star. Long story short, it increases your damage, and also it would give you a damage resistance whenever you're done with your Thunder Crash, and also melee final blows while you're amplified will grant you super energy, but I mainly put it just for the increased damage for your Thunder Crash. The gameplay loop for the Bolt Charge Titan build is basically just activate your rally barricade and be sure to be behind your rally barricade to generate bolt charges, and as you're behind your barricade, use your Thunderlord and hit a powerful target to continuously hit them non-stop to also produce an additional bolt charge as well. And as you're doing that, you're going to be unleashing powerful lightning strikes. Now that we're done talking about the Bolt Charge Titan build, let's now head to the Hunter. This Hunter build will make you become a tank while jolting a bunch of enemies as possible. The two main abilities you're going to be using for this build is Ascension and Tempest Strike. For Ascension, all you would have to do is jump and activate your corresponding button. For me, it is B. For you, maybe something else. And it will launch you into the air. It will jolt enemies and also make you and your allies amplified. Whenever you're amplified, you would get a plus 15% damage reduction. For Tempest Strike, all you would have to do is run, slide, activate your charge melee to unleash a wave of jolting energy in front of that target. And also, whenever you defeat jolted targets, it will grant you stacks of bolt charges. And to pair those two aspects on the exotic armor piece, you're going to want to put Gifted Conviction. This is the main exotic that would give you a big damage reduction, aka you get 50% damage reduction as long as you're jolting enemies. So for Ascension and Tempest Strike, those two abilities or aspects will give you the ability to jolt targets. We also are using an exotic weapon that will also jolt targets as well. And the exotic weapon you're going to want to use is the Delicate Tomb. Whenever you were to collect ionic traces, it would overcharge the next shot for this fusion rifle, and that overcharged shot will jolt that target. And whenever you collect an ionic trace for the catalyst, it would partially reload the magazine from reserves. So basically, if you want to deal more damage with this fusion rifle, all you would have to do is hit the enemy while you're hip firing. And also, if you were to defeat powerful enemies or guardians, it would guarantee an ionic trace. And for ionic traces, if you don't know what they are, they're basically like these arc snakes that go on the floor and just track to you. And whenever you pick up an ionic trace, it would give you grenade, melee, and class ability energy. And in this build, we are going to be producing a boatload of ionic traces just because of the Delicate Tomb. The main fragment you're going to want to put is Spark of Resistance, because while you are surrounded by combatants, you are more resistant to incoming damage. This will give you a plus 25% damage resistance as as long as you're surrounded by 3 or more enemies. And you could also top that even further with this other artifact called Heavy Ordnance Regeneration. Whenever you deal sustained damage with rocket launchers or machine guns, you'll be granted a damage resist and also gain increased grenade and melee regeneration for a short time. So this will give you a plus 25% damage resist, and if you want to stack all of them at once, you're going to need to activate Flashover, Heavy Ordnance Regeneration, and Spark of Resistance. If you want to top off your damage reduction even further, you're going to want to go for 100 Resilience to give you that 30% damage reduction. So for the gameplay loop for the Hunter build, all you would have to do is activate Tempest Strike. Once your melee goes away, activate Ascension to get your melee back because we are using Gambler's Dodge. Once you have your melee back, use that melee again, and then use your Delicate Tomb to produce Ionic Traces to give yourself either your melee or your dodge back, and then rinse and repeat. Let's now head to the final build, and it's on the Warlock. This Warlock build will make you generate a boatload of Ionic Traces, and whenever you collect an Ionic Trace, it will give you 7% super energy back. AKA, you're going to be getting your super quickly, and to make it even better, once you activate your super, it's going to last a long time. So this is an Ionic Trace build. So for this Warlock build, again, we are using the Delicate Tomb, 1 for the artifacts, and 2 just producing Ionic Traces. And also jolting targets because we are using this aspect on the Warlock called Electrostatic Mind. Basically, whenever you defeat either jolted or blinded targets, it will generate an Ionic Trace. If you were to collect an Ionic Trace, it would make you amplified. The 2 main fragments you're going to want to put for this Warlock build is Spark of Discharge. Arc Weapon Final Blows have a chance to create an Ionic Trace. Whenever you collect an Ionic Trace, it will grant you a stack of Bolt Charge. And the second one you're going to want to put is Spark of Ions. When defeating a jolted target or defeating a target with Bolt Charge, it would create an Ionic Trace. So in order for you to get tons of super energy, you're going to want to put this exotic armor piece called the Geomag Stabilizers. This exotic armor piece did get a buff, so whenever you collect Ionic Traces, it will grant you 7% super energy instead of 2%. If you want to extend your super duration whenever you activate it, the super you're going to want to use for this build is Chaos Reach. And in order for you to extend the duration, all you would have to do is hit a target for a long period of time, and as you're doing that, it would give you back super energy. Another thing that's really cool about this exotic armor piece is that whenever you sprint while you're near maximum bolt charges, you'll get stacks over time. So you would have to be at times 6 stacks of bolt charges or above in order for you to generate bolt charges whenever you run. The gameplay loop for this Arc Warlock build is basically use your Delicate Tomb and your abilities to produce Ionic Traces. Once you do, you'll get your super. Once your super is ready, activate Chaos Reach and hit a big, powerful, high-level enemy, such as like big bosses or all that stuff for champions, to increase the duration for your super. Once your super ends, rinse and repeat. So these are the best and powerful builds in episode Heresy. If you guys would like to see builds like these in the near future, be sure to hit that like button and also subscribe. And also, what's your favorite exotic in Destiny 2? I'm curious.